From April 23rd through 25th, we have all of our big Venus and Uranus activity. This is concentrated in the next two signs of the zodiac. So we were predominantly talking about Aries, so much activity going on there. And let me get my little pen here so I can illustrate. So we'll have Gemini here. So we have the bulk of the activity in most of April is happening right here. The last degree of Pisces and then the first around 10-ish degrees of Aries. Very, very concentrated. Plus, we have some sextiles happening in other places. But for Venus and Uranus, all that activity is right here, baby. Which is, as you can see, this is why it's sextiling, because it's just the two signs over. They are both at the very, very end of Taurus. Uranus has been in Taurus for a very long time, minus the preview period that we had last year. I have a video on that on my YouTube channel if you'd like to watch. And then Venus entered the last day of the month, March 30th. So for us, as I'm recording this, it's only been there for 2 seconds. But when this actually is coming out, when this is happening, it'll have been there for all month of April. So it takes Venus those few weeks to get to the end and meet up with Uranus, and then both of them hop over the line and go into Gemini. That's the long and short of what's happening, but that's notable, and especially for Uranus. So now that I've teased that, let's talk about Venus first. Venus is the planet of love, harmony, finance, relationships. April 23rd. We have Venus conjoining with Uranus, which is planet of unexpected surprises, with disruption, revolution, innovation, etc. And this signals a switch up, again, sudden change, in our values, in maybe even lacking cooperation. Venus is normally a sign of peace. Everybody, let's get along. It's in Taurus. Let's not ruffle any feathers. Let's go slow. But we have Uranus there, and Uranus, which does not want to be in Taurus, is incredibly disruptive, has been disruptive in Taurus, making the financial realms incredibly unstable, as we can see and track over the decades here. And when it's meeting with the ruler of this sign, Venus rules Taurus in addition to Libra. It's like, okay, what do I find valuable? And maybe we're trying to clutch to those comforts, those people, the material, the pleasure. But Uranus is like, no, nice try. I'm going to maybe take some of those things away, or I'm going to stir all of it around, or have you view all of it differently, as maybe that isn't comfortable. Maybe that isn't helpful. Again, this isn't about perception. That would be if we're talking about Neptune, but this is a disruption energy in a sign, Taurus, that doesn't want to be disrupted, with a planet, Venus, which is not a disruptor. It's not action oriented. It's just about like being and connection and pleasure and joy and ease. And so it's running into this big energy that's like, I'm going to flip everything around. And the counter and hope is that maybe because Venus is so happy and it's so relaxed, that when it meets up with Uranus, that it softens it a little bit. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Maybe it's not total disruption the other way. And maybe the shakeups that are happening, the feelings of instability, the questioning of what's happening with our finances, what's going on in the collective, maybe it gets a little bit softened and we're finding peace within change. Hopefully. But we're not going to know until we get there, and it might vary from person to person. And then what happens is, quite literally, only a few hours later, Venus says, see ya, and her priorities are switching because she goes into Gemini. And this ingress happening Eastern time, literally like right after midnight on the 24th. That means that Venus, which will be transiting Gemini, mutable air sign, from April 24th through May 18th. That should sound familiar. We mentioned May 18th earlier, so we'll want to pay attention to that next month with these different transits that are overlapping. Venus looks to find joy through humor, through discourse, through conversation, intellectual curiosity. That's going to be what Venus views as a priority from this point on, the very end of April into the first half of May. So we'll just get a little bit of a preview of it at the end of this month. What will bring me peace? And what can help me find it? Because we want to be curious. So we want to actually ask more questions during this time. What are we called to learn? So it doesn't mean that we have to start learning it. Venus is not an action energy, wait until Mars gets there. But we're thinking about what's important for me to learn. What will help me reconnect to myself, connect to others, allow me to unwind through learning, through curiosity. So there's a lot of questions that we can and will want to ask as this Venus transit is happening. Uranus is hot on Venus's trail because literally the next day, so this whole sequence again is late 23rd to late 25th. We have like 24 to 48 hours where all of this is happening. Venus conjoining Uranus, Venus changing signs, Uranus changing signs. Uranus, planet of surprise, revolution, innovation, enters Gemini late night, April 25th. And it stays there until 2033. These outer planet ingresses are a huge deal. I have spoken about Uranus in Gemini, the symbolism of that, the closure of the chapter of Uranus in Taurus. I spoke about it in July 2025 because that's when we had the preview period. So you can go back and you can watch those videos where I talked about some of the big themes. I'll give the really quick high level, which is over the next, what's the math on that? 7 years. The coming 7 years, the classic signatures for Uranus and Gemini on the collective are technological advancements, changes in how we communicate, how we are getting from point A to point B, transportation systems, education, how we are teaching, how we are learning, social norms, how we are interacting with each other. Oftentimes there is a boom, an explosion of new words, terminology being coined, and even decoding, finally deciphering old or ancient texts, which is cool. So we can learn, because that's what Gemini cares about, learning about some history, some new information that we're uncovering, we're figuring out, because now we can understand the words. And also youth-led movements, revolutions. Other signatures, of course, as with all of the other outer planets, you'll hear this in the many videos that I did on Neptune and Aries last year, earlier this year, Saturn and Aries, including this transition as well. There are signatures of global conflict. So we've already been living that. We've already seen it. It's been playing out. It's lining up with the astrological signatures of those placements. So now on top of that, we are going to add this Uranus and Gemini transit for the next 7 years, which also has another global conflict association to it. So just keeping that in mind. This is, of course, this is not to scare anybody. It's just, these are the signatures. So if we're aware of it, we can anticipate. We want to focus on some of those positives of things that could come out of it that are really awesome. But if some of these changes, revolutions are led by the young, a new generation, I think that's something I know I've talked to a lot of people about that. I was like, that's kind of what we want. We want like the younger people to be participating at a higher rate in government, in the discourse and conversations of what is transpiring in the world and having those voices. So there's an opportunity for that. But historically, Uranus and Gemini coincides with, as an example, just on the US side, because that's where I'm based, is the American Revolution and the United States entering World War II. So those are the wartime signatures that we have, at least for my country. Putting a bow on that change with a purpose theme, because Venus cares about values. It's our principles, what's important, what makes us feel secure financially, connected to other people. That's changing. So we're starting a new chapter there, much shorter than the huge chapter of change itself. Change being Uranus, moving from that financial stability realm where it has been wreaking havoc for many years and moving into this totally new area. There is intention for the change to move. So this is a really big transitional month, an opportunity for us to learn a lot. And I have a quick little recap kind of everything when I tie all of this together. And ultimately in April, we are seeing change in our actions, our motivations, our mindset, how we're communicating, how we're thinking, how we're talking, traveling, a change in our values, in our relationships. And all of that, those personal planets, those are all informed with the conjunctions, with the sextiles by spiritual work, soul work, and our willingness to throw literally everything away for something new. When I was showing the natal chart before, I was clarifying that most of this energy that we're talking about in April is concentrated in Aries, which is a fire sign. So it's a very fiery, therefore action-oriented month. But otherwise, it's like we have a stellium here, which means we have this pileup of planets. So even if they weren't all conjoining each other, which of course they are, there's just a lot of planets just in there. And that means that we're really feeling and experiencing things differently. What is lighting us up has a totally different quality to it. And we have a little activity in the air signs. Air and fire are complementary. So it's air for Gemini, air for Aquarius. Those are the other signs that we were speaking about as being really pivotal and important this month. And then, yeah, we do have a little bit going on in Taurus. We have we have the little sextile that's happening, and the conjunction that happens right before the planets change signs. Yeah, those are important. There's a little checkpoints, but it's like barely something of significance happening with with Earth, and therefore with Pisces, because that's where Mars was sextiling as well. It's so small, it's so minor in comparison to what's happening in the fire element and then what's happening in the air elements. The world is on fire because a lot of the collective is on fire. It's either the oxygen that is keeping the flame lit, or it is the fire itself, the planets that are in these fire signs. And this will continue for years. But also, all of these personal planets, we are entering fire signs and air signs. So I am reading the Hunger Games books right now. I'm actually on the prequels, but still, I just read the original trilogy. So all I could think of was Katniss Everdeen, the girl who was on fire. So it's like we are becoming the flame. In some ways, it's a trial by fire experience. Everything I spoke about with the Mars and Mercury experience, where it's like all of a sudden this info is coming in, this is changing, is that changing? And then we really know where we're going and how we're going to get there once we reach a certain point. So that's a bit of the trial by fire. But a lot of these transits are lasting a lot longer than just April, but this is becoming a new beginning where we're making a lot of adjustments. And we cannot divorce this from 2026 overall. Hello. January, February, March. These were some incredibly intense and exhausting months. So we have to keep those experiences in the context of what we're talking about here. So we're having a trial by fire. We're all Katniss Everdeen, and we are becoming the flame. We are participating in change for ourselves. And also, if we would like, for the collective, that is what we're being called to do in April. And we need to know what those experiences were in the lead up, the lives that we have lived before. That's going to be shaping our approach and how we adjust to the transition, because we have all these ingresses, planets changing signs. It means that there's a turn, but we don't just forget about what we've experienced for the last 3 months. So all of that is still there. Um, so yeah, just as like a final closure, I just wanted to see how people are feeling. How do you feel in hearing all of this? Um, are you feeling ready? Are you feeling excited? Maybe you're excited. You're like, yeah, let's do this. I am Katniss Everdeen. I'm ready to go.